2024 was, in our humble opinion at least, a very exciting time to be a gamer. Whether you were playing big AAA titles like Helldivers II, Astro Bot, or Silent Hill 2, revisiting older favorites thanks to expansions like Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred or Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree, or just having a whale of a time with indie games such as UFO 50 or Animal Well, there's no doubt you'll have found something to get excited over. 2024 is over now though, and so as that mince pie and Baileys-induced wave of regret for all we've consumed this holiday season crashes over us, we must look forward to the games set to release in the next 12 months. Today, we're listing off the games we're most excited for, which are currently slated to launch in 2025. Now, as we've said previously, we are not psychic and release dates are subject to change, but at the time of writing, all of these gems are due to hit PCs and/or consoles in the next 12 months. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 games to look forward to in 2025. Number 10. Tales of the Shire, a The Lord of the Rings game. We're kicking off this list with a game that has the potential to be the coziest game to have ever cozied. I am, of course, talking about Tales of the Shire, a The Lord of the Rings game, which is due to launch on all major platforms on March the 25th, 2025. In Tales of the Shire, players get to step into the hairy feet of a hobbit and live out the whimsical fantasy life they've always dreamed of. Start by customizing your hobbit with a plethora of appearance options, then get to exploring the village of Bywater to uncover all that it has to offer. Tend to crops in your garden, fish in nearby ponds, forage for berries and herbs, trade with the local townsfolks, then head back to your hobbit hole to cook yourself a delightful breakfast, second breakfast, 11's, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and of course supper. Speaking of hobbit holes, in Tales of the Shire, players are given their very own to decorate and furnish in whatever way they'd like, and you can even invite other hobbits over for a dinner party where you can show off your culinary chops. All of this and nary a Nazgul in sight. What a luxury. Number 9. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. If there ever comes a year where Hideo Kojima is due to release a game and we're not all aboard the hype train, you may as well take us into the yard and give us the old Yeller treatment because we're already dead inside anyway. Death Stranding was released in 2019 and supposedly it wasn't long after its release that Kojima began penning the story for the sequel. At the end of Death Stranding, actually, we'll pause here if you want to skip ahead if you're not caught up. Are they gone? Okay, I'll continue. At the end of Death Stranding, protagonist Sam Porter-Bridges, played by Norman Reedus, removes his BB, Lou, from its pod, destroys his UCA cufflinks, and goes off-grid to raise Lou as his own. Whilst we don't know much about the plot of Death Stranding 2, we know Reedus, as well as co-stars Leah Seydoux and Troy Baker, will be returning, so presumably we'll be catching up with Sam and little baby Lou. There's bad news, however, for Xbox and PC fans, as unfortunately Death Stranding 2 on the Beach will only be releasing on PS5. As it strands, pun very much intended, Death Stranding 2 will launch at some point in 2025, but there's currently no indication of when exactly we'll get to revisit Norman Reedus and his jar baby. Number 8. Tavern Keeper. Have you ever been playing a spot of Dungeons & Dragons and wondered what life might be like for all of the innkeeps whose establishments are constantly descended upon by bands of travelers and various assorted miscreants? Well, wonder no longer. Originally set to release into early access in late 2024, Tavern Keeper is now due to land on PC at some point in 2025 and will give players the chance to manage their very own fantasy inn. Initially, players are given an empty husk of a tavern and it's up to them to buy in some booze, tart the place up a bit and generally keep the punters happy. The twist is that, along the way, players will interact with their patrons and it's up to them for how they'll deal with their woes. In the demo, which is currently available on Steam, players meet a dungeon-dwelling skeleton in the throes of an afterlife crisis and can invite him to become a member of staff if they so wish. Cute, cozy, and brimming with fantasy merriment, Tavern Keeper is set to be the most fun you could have in a pub without running the risk of getting a hangover the morning after. Number 7. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We're sticking with all things medieval for the moment, though you won't find any reanimated skeletons or mysterious sorcerers here. No siree, because Kingdom Come Deliverance's whole shtick is the fact that it's historically accurate. In Deliverance 2, players will once again control Henry, the blacksmith protagonist from the first game, as he embarks on a quest to take on the Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund in the early 15th century, or the 1400s if you want to get confused about this. Numbers, what do they mean? Gameplay-wise, players can expect a similar experience to the one they got in Kingdom Come Deliverance. 2 takes place in an open world. Henry is controlled from a first-person perspective, and there are elements of life simulation to the game, so if Henry doesn't get enough sleep or food, he will suffer. This time around, though, players will get to use crossbows and different types of early firearms, both of which can be utilized whilst riding a horse. And yes, we did check, apparently there were firearms in Europe as early as the 1300s, so the game gets to keep its historically accurate badge for now. At the moment, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is scheduled to release on the 11th of February 2025 for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Number 6. 2 Point Museum. So, you're already a dab hand at running a hospital, and the students at your university get nothing but top marks, so now what? Well, how does overseeing your very own museum sound? Indeed, from 2 Point Studios, the good folks behind 2 Point Hospital and 2 Point Campus, comes 2 Point Museum, which is currently on track to release on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on March the 4th, 2025. Like its predecessors, 2 Point Museum is to be a management sim in which players will be tasked with running a successful tourist hotspot, build and maintain exhibits, send experts out on daring adventures to find the most interesting artifacts to display, and be careful to keep an eye out for pesky thieves who would steal your priceless treasures. Based on what we've seen so far, this seems very much a case of if you liked what the studio has done previously, you're probably going to like this because it's more of it. But so brilliant were Hospital and Campus that we can't help but be excited for what Goofy Delights Museum has in store. It's going to be much more fun than visiting the local Maritime Museum at the very least. Number 5. Doom: The Dark Ages. For the past 30 plus years, the Doom franchise has been delighting trigger-happy players and upsetting special interest groups in equal measure with its demon-blasting first-person shooter gameplay. It's been a few years since we've gotten an installment though, and we're very much looking forward to slipping into the big green armored boots of the Doom Slayer once again. Announced on June the 9th, 2024, Doom: The Dark Ages is a prequel to 2016's Doom and its 2020 sequel, Doom Eternal, and will chronicle the Doom Slayer's rise from a kingdom's last hope to the biggest thorn in Hell's side. The classic Doom gameplay is set to return, and the player's arsenal will be supplemented with medieval-style weaponry, including the flail and the throwable shield saw. At the time of writing, we don't have an official release date for Doom: The Dark Ages. All we know is it's coming at some point in 2025. Thankfully, Microsoft have decided not to hoard the franchise, and as such, when it does finally launch, Xbox Series, PC, and PS5 players will all get the chance to get in on the demon-slaying fun. Isn't it nice when no one's left out? Number 4. Ghost of Yotei. 2020 was a plops year for a plethora of reasons, but there were a few good things that came out of it, such as Sucker Punch Productions' fabulous action-adventure title, Ghost of Tsushima. If you were a fan of that game, then I've got some great news for you, because in 2025, we're getting a sequel. Hooray! Ghost of Yotei, which at the time of writing doesn't have a confirmed release date beyond some point in 2025, centers on Atsu, a female warrior who takes up the persona of the Ghost and is set to take place over 300 years after the events of Tsushima. Unfortunately, aside from that and the fact that Atsu will be played by the wonderful Erika Ishii, who folks will probably recognize from web series such as Dimension 20, as well as their other video game voice roles including Apex Legends Valkyrie, we don't know all that much about what to expect from Ghost of Yotei. If the gameplay is similar to that in Tsushima, however, we're going to be in for a fantastic time. Here's hoping that over the coming months more is revealed, but until then, we'll just be over here polishing our katanas in anticipation. Number 3. Sid Meier's Civilization VII. It would seem that February the 11th, 2025 is set to be a big day for fans of history, because not only does Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 release then, but so does Sid Meier's Civilization VII. Like its predecessors, Civ 7 is a strategy game in which players assume the role of a historical leader, oversee the growth of a civilization, and attempt to become the very best one, either through peaceful means such as technological advancement or through total military domination. Several gameplay tweaks have already been revealed. The criteria for what constitutes a leader has been changed, meaning players will get to pick non-heads of state to lead their civilization. The era system has been simplified, and players will now be faced with crisis events that could make or break their run. Civ 7 lands on PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series on February the 11th, 2025. So if you need your local RTS nerd for anything, we suggest you grab them sooner rather than later, because after February the 11th, you've got absolutely no chance. Number 2. Borderlands 4. Borderlands? I barely know Erlands. Anyway, ever since the original game was released all the way back in 2009, the Borderlands series has been delighting cartoon violence-loving players the world over. However, it's been more than 5 years since the last mainline installment, Greystar Hardware, and so we're very much looking forward to the follow-up. Developers Gearbox Software have been playing things rather close to their chest when it comes to Borderlands 4, meaning that we don't really know all that much about what to expect when it comes to the setting, characters, or villain. They have, however, confirmed that the upcoming sequel won't be set on Pandora and will introduce a quartet of new Vault Hunters. The game will also retain that classic looter-shooter gameplay that fans know and love, though it may lean further into some of the RPG elements of previous titles, which is something that could be very exciting if pulled off well. Regardless though, as long as we get loads of new wacky NPCs and visits from some old friends, megalomaniacal villains, graphic novel-esque visuals, and more guns than we could possibly reasonably shoot in 1,000 lifetimes, we'll be more than happy. Number 1. Grand Theft Auto 6. Oh, come on, what else were you expecting us to put in the number 1 spot in this list, other than the game we've all been waiting for over a decade? Indeed, after years and years of speculation, rumors, and leaks, Grand Theft Auto 6 is finally coming. At the time of writing, the long-awaited sequel to 2013's Grand Theft Auto 5 is slated for release at some point in 2025, though no official release date has been confirmed. GTA 6 is set to take place in the fictional state of Leonida, a place heavily inspired by Florida, and will give players the opportunity to visit a modern-day Vice City, a location longtime fans of the series will be familiar with. The game will focus on a pair of protagonists, Lucia and a as-yet unnamed male partner, a sort of Bonnie and Clyde duo of criminals, though what they'll be getting up to is anyone's guess at the moment. What we do know is that the GTA series' trademark parodying of American culture will be on full display, and the devs will be poking fun at everything from influencer culture to the heavily memed Florida man. If it's anything like its predecessors, Grand Theft Auto 6 will be one of the best video games ever made, and I'm not sure how we're all going to contain our excitement if it doesn't release before Christmas. Come on, Rockstar, give us a hint.